So what does the the inside of an exponential enterprise look like? What is the actual workings internally of an exponential enterprise? Hey, John Harris here, coming to you live from our digital studio, and this is the Exponential Entrepreneur Academy. Before I go into the internal workings of an exponential enterprise, I'd like to just do a little recap of what we've been over on the externalities. We spoke about the creative side and the external side. Now we're talking about the control, the internal side of an organization, an enterprise. So we must remember that exponentials are driven, the key driver is an MTP, a massively transformative purpose. Whereas you would have originally with companies a vision and a brand and so forth. Brands themselves are going to start to morph into MTPs. It's going to be the purpose that's driving the organization, that's driving the product and service, that's more important than just simply a brand. Leverage, we've spoken about the outsourcing of people, of places, workspaces, and of machines. So the sharing of capacity. And the whole thing about exponentials that we need to understand, an exponential organization is very flat, it's very flexible, it's very fast, it has high speed, it has agility, and it has a very powerful learning capability through big data, etc., and the integration of AI. So for normal brick and mortar businesses, the old models of your administration, your purchasing, your sales, your marketing, your R&D unit, those kind of organizations are going to really struggle. In fact, they're not going to be able to come. In the next 5 years, we're going to see massive acceleration within the AI sector. So let's just talk about the internal side of the enterprise. And what we really want to talk about now is we want to look at the interfaces. So first of all, on the 5 externalities, if you remember, we spoke about staff on demand, we spoke about community and crowd, we spoke about algorithms, we spoke about leveraged assets, and we spoke about engagement. Internally, on the control side of the enterprise, we're going to look at interfaces, we're going to look at dashboards, we're going to look at experimentation, and we're going to look at autonomy, plus social technologies. So let's talk about the interfaces. So what is an interface? So an interface, what they are, they basically what they do is they filter and they match. It's a filtering and matching process by which exponentials bridge the gap from externals to the internal part of the organization. So it's that bridge. And you know, the interface is really a controlling framework and mechanism. There are often algorithms or automated workflows, and let's take a story. Let's take Uber as an enterprise and organization. So really Uber is about driver selection. And the system allows users, people who want a car, to find and choose drivers. So obviously we know how it works. You're looking to get a ride, you go onto the platform, and you get allocated a driver. The algorithm matches the best, closest drivers to that location, and the driver is, so it's drivers by algorithm. So that is the power of that, from the external, from the client coming through to going out to a driver, coming into the platform, and going to a driver and matching them. Let's take Apple for example, the App Store. This is a very, very big and very powerful interface. So you're going to have, it contains more than 1.2 million apps. And, you know, with more than 75 billion downloads, and they've got 9 million developers growing all the time. So this is a huge ecosystem. And what happens is, through that ecosystem, through those people developing apps, through other people being able to use them, they've been paid out to the tune of 15 billion US. That's what the developers receive. So it's very beneficial for everybody and a very powerful force. Apple's interface is comprised of internal editorial board, basically that vets new apps that come in. It also looks at requests and it looks at changes. So it has from the app side, it has an interface there. And then there are interfaces look at new products and policies. Those kind of things are really done more by conferences and conventions where you put those out to through major networks, major centers of influence, and they talk about new policies and procedures. Apple uses basically an algorithm to determine which apps are leading. So why this is important is because when you go onto the page and you look for new apps, you see that on the front page, before you put in the specific area that you're interested in, you'll see there's a whole lot of recommendations, daily recommendations. That's done through an algorithm. So in the different categories, you'll see which are the highest trending, which are the most popular apps for the day in those particular areas of interest, key focus areas. And so that is then revealed on the page, obviously. So that is Apple's interface when it comes to working with the end user. Often tasks start out with enterprise, exponential enterprises as manual, and then what happens is they start to automate them, and they become automated through various algorithms, etc. And that's done over a period of time. So what are the three attributes of interfaces? The one is algorithms that we discussed. Then there's engagement, which we mentioned before, and the community and the crowd. Those are some of the external, how to connect some of the outside interests groups and bring them into the middle. So those externalities, how do you bridge them into the control, into the center? So you have a much smaller, flatter company with massive reach, and it's that external, internal thing. Whereas modern brick and mortar type businesses we know are basically internal. Everything is structured, the staffing, everything is structured internal, and everything is kept very tight under lock and key. Exponentials are opposite. They go to the crowd, they share to the crowd, they send iterations to the crowd, they get feedback from the crowd, and they change according to the market. They're very flexible, as I mentioned. So you can start to see the power. And the mechanism by which they do that is the interface. So that's where they control that external information coming into the company to the internal control systems. And we'll talk about the dashboards next time and some of the other parts of the internal workings of an exponential organization. What it does is it gives you a little bit of an overview. And remember, we're discussing organization, enterprise here. We've also mentioned that an individual can also be an expert entrepreneur, can also have their own information and have their own platforms, internal workings and external going to this in a smaller type of situation. But they also have the power to do that as well. So this is empowering the individual, is democratizing, and we see it all over with exponentials. I hope that's been of interest for you. And as usual, you can like, follow, subscribe to us. And if you go to our Exponential Entrepreneur Academies, the Facebook page, you'll see there's a link there if you want to see for next year or later in the year, should I say, when we start to have our next mastermind meetups and various other coaching programs. And as usual, we'll see you in the next episode.